All right, you are now tuned in to the Rotated Views podcast. I am your host, Jimmy Lee Velez. I am here with Goose,
what up?
Manny, Gabe, and my son, James. Yeah. All right, so what a disaster. Episode 77. In this episode, the crew talks about recent disastrous events that have taken place throughout the world. We cover topics that range from the multiple hurricanes, earthquakes, other natural disasters, and how the world is handling the aftermath. We wrap the episode up with quotes from Nathaniel Philbrick and Daryn Kagan. All right, if you're new, thank you for joining us. Don't forget to download and subscribe. The Rotated Views podcast, in collaboration with Team VC and Miguel's Riverside Barbershop, have partnered up with TIR and St. Mark's Parish for a hurricane and earthquake relief efforts. We are donating items to Mexico and Puerto Rico. Go to jimmyleevelez.com, follow me, and find out more information about that. That is a fantastic thing that we're trying to do to help all those in need. If you're new, thank you for joining us. We like to kick things off with a definition from dictionary.com. And sadly, we had to define the word disaster. And it is defined as a calamitous event, especially one occurring suddenly and causing great loss of life, damage, or hardship, as a flood, airplane crash, or business failure. All right, so if you haven't been living under a rock, you're very aware of the hurricane season and earthquake happenings around the world. So we're just going to jump right into it, and that's our topic for today. The story: Harvey, Irma, Maria. Why is this hurricane season so bad? From the Washington Post by Angela Fritz. The 2017 hurricane season has been a full-on assault from Mother Nature. We are under siege, and our attackers have benign names like Harvey and Irma and Maria. They are callous, powerful, indiscriminate, terrifying, destructive, merciless, and relentless. Is Earth trying to eject us from the planet? Again and again and again, the harshest of winds and hardest of rains has pounded on the most defenseless territories we have. The Caribbean islands, hanging out in open sea. The Florida Peninsula, jutting out into danger. The Texas coastline, low-lying and concrete-laden. Nearly a full month of back-to-back-to-back disasters. This hurricane season, not yet even close to finished, has generated more destructive, landfalling storms than the past few years combined. 4 of this year's monsters went on to become Category 4 or 5, and 3 of those made landfall on U.S. territory. The U.S. has never been hit by 3 storms this strong in the same season in modern records. Hurricane Harvey seemed to spin up in an instant before hitting land on August 26th. Only to come to rest for days over southeast Texas and southwest Louisiana. A mind-boggling 19 trillion gallons of rain fell in that storm, which triggered unprecedented flooding. Texas Governor Greg Abbott estimates Harvey will cost the state up to $180 billion, more than the epic Hurricane Katrina. Hurricane Irma was one of the strongest ever recorded in the Atlantic Ocean, when Irma maintained 180-mile-per-hour winds for 37 hours. It set a record for the most intense storm for such a long duration anywhere on Earth. It made landfall September 10th, strafing the Florida Keys before terrorizing both Florida coast in vastly different ways. It knocked out power to millions of people, and some are still waiting for the lights to come back on. Hurricane Maria made landfall in Puerto Rico 10 days later as the strongest storms to hit the island since 1928, San Felipe hurricane. It thrashed the U.S. territory with winds over 100 miles per hour and more than 30 inches of rain. All of Puerto Rico lost power and was under flood flash warnings. The full extent of the damage and the loss of life might not even be known for some time. It could take months to restore infrastructure. All this in just 4 weeks. It spurs so many questions. Is this barrage random? Is it part of a natural cycle? Is it the result of climate change? Have we done this to ourselves? And the article obviously continues. I just stopped it there because there was enough content for us to obviously get the point here.
Yeah.
So yeah, we are, under siege here with Mother Nature at war, and it is a terrifying thing that we are going through right now, because it is the unknown, right? It's one of those things where it's you're not so sure how to take it, because it's so, first of all, it's so random. I know, we have the forecasters predicting, how it's supposed to hit, but you still can't measure the actual damage it's going to do. That's what's like frightening about it. It's like, you can tell me all these numbers, but what it really does, I mean, it literally wiped out an entire island. Yeah. And no powers, and they're predicting for over 4 months possibly
4 to 6
restore.
months, and
I mean, it's just absolutely insane. And of course, that's the island of Puerto Rico, but it's the whole Caribbean island. We just specifically, we say, Puerto Rico is close to home for us, because we're all obviously Puerto Rican and have friends and dear loved ones that live on the island still. And so, it hit close to home. And many of us still have not heard, or just are now hearing from family members since Maria struck. So it's the unknown. And then you hear this stuff with the earthquakes happening, and multiple earthquakes happening in Mexico and all around the world, and it all kicked off with Hurricane Harvey hitting Texas, right? And when it hit, went through Houston, that whole thing, you're just like, oh boy, here we go. And we knew it was hurricane season. You learn about it in school, but like where we live in Pennsylvania, we don't necessarily get hit or are in that pathway of that level of weather, except there was an exception like in 2012 with Hurricane Sandy. Right,
and Irene, Superstorm Irene, or Superstorm Sandy.
I mean, I don't think anyone can compare a
no, absolutely not.
Hard rain, and no, it did take out a lot of the coastline of New Jersey. It's not to like also underestimate it, because that thing was buried literally.
Yeah. But I mean, like,
but not nowhere near Category 5 destruction.
No,
you know what I mean? Not even close.
But even like in the past, like 5 years, when we actually had anything come close to us like that.
We're just getting the back end of the storm.
Yeah, we usually get like the remnants and stuff over there.
Yeah, I mean, so, even just like listening and watching TV and seeing like the images, right? Like the images of the destruction. What did the images shown from these disasters make you think?
To make you think? I'm glad I'm not there.
Right.
You start with yourself.
Yeah.
Sure.
Selfishly. But two is like, how they're going back to like days well before. I mean, we're talking about the early 1800s, back when you lived off the land, except their land is destroyed.
Right.
And you're coddled as a modern human being to have all these niceties and all these extravagant things. Yep. You don't think they're extravagant until you don't have them.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Just basic things like light.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Running water. Yeah. I mean, being able to go to the bathroom.
Clean water.
Yeah. And just simple things like that. I mean, a refrigerator, for crying out loud. Yeah, basic things that we call necessities now are gone, are taken from us. So I would hate to be them.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
Your heart goes out for all the people who didn't have anything either.
Yeah. All I see is like a long term of like work, of like reconstruction. Like it's not gonna happen overnight to get fixed. If you've seen pictures, there's like buildings that are like 2 or 3 like stories tall, and they're like halfway buried. Like the first and second floor is gone. Like they're just buried, not buried, but they're flooded. It's all water.
Yeah.
So it's like, to see that's like, it's a long way for repairs, and once everything clears out and everything's over, like in the clear, it's gonna take a while to get back on for the island of Puerto Rico to be back on their feet.
Especially the fact that there's no power at all. So it's like all that has to be external, like part like whatever stuff brought in to help clear that stuff out.
Where do you put it? Where do you put all the destroyed homes? The destroyed. I saw just furniture in front of somebody's house. I guess they're piling up in front of their house for, I guess garbage when they do finally pick it up to pick it up. I mean, it is mountains of trash, and it's where does it go? Where you put it?
Yeah, I'm not sure, but when I do see like pictures, and it was it began at Harvey for me. I mean, I'm sorry. Well, yeah, it was Harvey, but in Houston, you're seeing like the reality of people like literally in boats and swimming for their safety. And then we go into Florida, and we have friends and family that are, quote, evacuating into, coming inland from Florida, and, not knowing where to go. Just not even that, being stuck on 95 because it was a traffic jam, and wondering if they're going to have enough gas to even get through. Yeah. And then I remember seeing like an image of San Juan, and it was a pickup truck that the bed was obviously underwater, and people were standing in the bed because even that was at least only 2 feet tall. I mean, 2 feet deep, and at least they were, didn't have to necessarily swim. And you see like someone else like yelling and swimming over to them like for help, because it was like the current was even strong. Yeah. So when I see these images, it's like, it's reality. You know what I'm saying? It's like, it just like humbles you, because you're like, wow.
And I was there like a couple years ago, and you just see like all like the open farmlands. Like, think about all the farm animals, all like they have a high population of stray dogs. Like, you think of all that. What happened to all them? Where did they go? We're like, you just think of like, I don't know. It is a disaster. It is like
literally.
Yeah.
How do you prepare? How do you mentally prepare knowing that's coming? Other than, all right, let's make sure the windows and the doors are all, we're protected. But how do you mentally prepare? I heard a lady on one of it was streamed somewhere, but she said the noise, the whistle, it sounded like a monster was. She said it sounded like a monster was lurking. Just every time she heard a whistle or a gust, it was like, woo. She said it was the scariest thing she's ever heard. Meanwhile, you're in the house. I don't know how long it lasted, but it had to feel like days. It was probably hours. But she's probably just sitting there like, oh my God, like this could knock down my whole house right now.
Like the thing with Puerto Rico is that it got hit with Irma a week and a half before that, and then boom, it gets hit with Maria. That was like, so I know some people were talking that they thought that they're prepared because they survived Irma, but then this was twice the size kind of thing in strength and all that. And somebody was telling me like, houses were built that are built to code in Puerto Rico. At most, it's like for like Category 2 hurricanes.
Right.
They got hit with a Category 5, and that's for the houses that are built to code.
Right.
If anybody's been to Puerto Rico, you could see there's certain structures that are definitely not up to code. Let's just say.
And what's crazy is like a lot of these people, they can't even afford like to go through anything like this. Yeah. They probably made it through their first storm. They're like, good. But then to get hit back to back by another one, they can't. They won't be able to afford to like even like rebuild their house or try to get things back or whatever. Try to get back on their feet. It's a shame. It's
really like how do you start commerce all over again? How do you start life again? I mean, there's nothing. Who's buying what with what money? You know what I mean? The country isn't well off. Let's just call it. Obviously, it's in a deficit, but how do you start with no money, where do you begin? You're behind the 8 ball at this point.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Yeah, obviously it's like an individual thing.
Sure.
Yeah.
But they're going like there will get relief.
Sure.
I'm just don't know how do you start? Like where do you start? Yeah. I don't know. I know there's going to be some high level of relief too at this point. But the worst part about that is like, that's awesome. We're all like trying to pitch in, but it's like you almost get anxious because you're like, how fast can we do this though? Yeah. Like they don't have power.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Where that's what's, one of the articles, headlines are saying that, Puerto Rico got pushed back decades now. As if it wasn't already somewhat behind.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Yep.
That's what the scary part. I mean, it's an island of survivors, and the people who can make it there will be okay. It's a long road to recovery.
Yeah.
Sure.
I don't know the answer. I don't have that answer in particular, but I know something will happen because they're, a strong breed of people that you just know that they're going to figure it out.
Sure.
But I think it's going to be a lot of creativeness, a lot of helping hands from people outside the island, patience, And honestly, like I always say, you guys know we always say this: come back bigger and better.
Mm-hmm.
But
absolutely.
this is gonna take a long time, dude. This is like a devastating thing.
They said something about like 4 to 6 months. I think it's gonna take years. It's gonna take way longer.
Well, that's
than
just to
that.
get the power
46
back.
just to get
just
power
to get power
back.
back on.
Not to recover. That's just for
That- yeah.
power.
That's
which
just
is terrible.
Yeah, just to restore the infrastructure of electricity. So that's just a baseline.
Yeah. And unfortunately, everything that is used to build, for the most part, is
based off
be some sort of power.
We were in New Jersey and we're going to, like, it was a bunch of farmland where we're actually going to a farm, Johnson's Corner Farm. But on the way there was probably like 3 farms that were filled with solar panels. So you wonder, and it was like, well, is that where, where the direction we should be going? Because to rebuild these grids, they're saying it's going to take 6 months. That doesn't sound like I don't even know how to explain this, but don't you feel like there's another way? Couldn't there be another way with, when you think of alternative technologies like solar panels?
Sure.
But that already has to be in place in some form or another.
But does it? Or is that what Couldn't we provide power? Couldn't the U.S. itself provide enough power?
Well, that's what I mean. I'm sure that's what they're figuring out now. How to divert a way to get the power back over there somewhere or another. I'm sure there is ways of, and that's where intuition comes into play now. And that's where, they figure out some way to, maybe they do start fresh and start a new infrastructure for solar panels or something.
We're talking about 2 different budget lines too. Like
sure.
Here there's people that have some coin to spend on stuff like that.
Yeah. No. I'm not saying the people there. I'm saying the U.S. government has, declared it Puerto Rico a disaster, relief location. I don't know how the proper terminology is, but that means that their government funds is going to go into Puerto Rico.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Isn't there another way? Are there alternative ways that this can happen faster as a Band-Aid while they really build the infrastructure? You know what I'm saying?
And for the fact that there are so many disasters at the same time at this point, I'm sure there are people who have some kind of significant power are going to step up and go towards those kinds of efforts, like people like who run like crazy big businesses like Tesla and stuff like that, who might go in there to try to reinvigorate like whatever that needs to happen to get that done quicker.
The problem is that takes money, right?
Sure.
And there's only a certain amount of funds that they're going to receive. So the worry and the concern is just you're putting a Band-Aid on something that needs stitches.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Or something that needs surgery. Just putting a Band-Aid on it because you need to get them funds. You need to get them up and running.
Absolutely.
To get them to probably where they want to be is going to the people of the country are going to have to sacrifice that much more to have something that much better.
Sure.
Who's willing to do that?
Well,
that's what it's going to come down to.
Private corporations, something has to come into play. I mean, obviously we don't have those answers, but
the problem is their economy was already suffering.
Sure.
They were already behind the ball, so to speak. This is a whole other thing. I personally don't think Puerto Rico will ever be Puerto Rico ever again. Yeah. It's going to be a piece of land that the United States of America obviously owns. It's already obviously it's a U.S. territory, but I just think that it's going to be ran by our government. I don't think Puerto Rico is going to be Puerto Rico again. No. It's just not.
As far as what I'm hearing, I know a lot of people here in the United States, they have family members in Puerto Rico. Their goal is to bring them back here to the States where they're safe and sound until things get, who knows, they might stay here forever and never go back.
Yeah.
Right.
So, and if that's just a couple people word of mouth in the town, who knows? That's all over the place. That could be like everyone could just abandon that whole island.
Sure,
and it could be whatever it is,
Not everybody's a fighter, man. It's fight or flight, and the select few stay and fight and try. A lot will fly out of here.
I just don't see it happening.
I don't. People leaving or rebuilding?
Being able to stay there.
Yeah.
I just don't. It does.
I don't think it's sustainable right now. Right?
And like you said earlier, it was already suffering. It's already on the very very edge of people thinking on what's next to do.
Yeah.
This came through, and they made their decision, or they're going to make their decision. Stay or
I don't think.
To another.
But that's what I'm saying. I don't even know if it's even a decision. I don't think it's a choice. I think you can only go this way.
Yeah.
It's that bad, dude. Like, you understand? Like, they were already in conflict with what the U.S. wanted to, help them out with, or I guess, partner up with them in when it came to the economy,
Yeah.
that they were still trying to be independent and they were struggling with that. Now you're nothing now without this help.
Yeah.
Yes.
So now you have to do whatever they want you to do.
Yeah.
So it's never going to be Puerto Rico as we knew it. That's what I'm trying to say. It's just a piece of land now that, you know, sadly, that is owned, and you now have to do whatever they're going to say to do.
Yeah.
And it's such a tragedy when you think of that. You know what I mean? Like, you get like a frog in your throat, like, well, like, that's your heritage. Like, that's like where we're from. That's our ancestors are from there. We're all 100% Puerto Rican. Like, that's where we're from. And it's like, it's almost, it'll never be the same. It'll never be the same.
Yeah.
Like, well, you know, after what, 2 decades, who knows? It might be, you know, something else. I don't know. It's just a wild thought.
It'll be Puerto Rico, but it won't be Puerto Rico.
Yeah.
But it won't get back. I think you're right. The unfortunate happenings is going to be looked upon as an opportunity for statehood for the U.S. It's an opportunity. It's going to be modernized and Americanized, and you know what we once thought it to be. And I'll be honest with you, I'm sad as hell I didn't go.
Yeah.
Didn't go to go see it before. I told my wife, I was like, I'll never know it as my mom knew it. It'll never be what they told me it would be. Most of that stuff's gonna be destroyed or gone, or as the site at this point.
Yeah, and it'll definitely be taken over by like some other form of like corruption. Like people that have a lot of money, they're gonna take over. They're gonna make it. They're gonna make it like vacation sites.
The new Malibu.
Yes,
casinos.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's gonna turn into something totally different. But it's exactly like you said. It's not gonna. Puerto Rico is
Key West
not
South.
gonna be Puerto Rico.
Yeah, it'll be there just in name alone.
Yeah.
What's crazy about Hurricane Maria is that it's still on the move and headed up the East Coast towards North Carolina and Virginia. This thing's not done at a Category 3, so it's holding its strength.
Wow. It held on for quite a while.
How long ago was it when we all went to Puerto Rico? With
2004.
2004. So what's that?
13 years.
13. Yeah. So when we went 13 years ago, and we went with like Pop took us to his homeland, his city Lares, and we went and saw where he was raised at, the house where he was raised at. We went to the mountain and to the area where he was at, and it was flatland. There was nothing there. Meanwhile, his dad owned a farm. There was acres and acres and acres, and there was nothing but a slab of cement to where his house was. So even just that, like, that was just, I guess, natural things that happened. I guess they couldn't afford it, whatever. That was sad. I couldn't imagine having like a whole island.
Yeah.
And the whole island wiped out to nothing. Like
Yeah.
a slab of cement. Like nothing. There's nothing there. There's nothing to see. There's nothing to look at. There's nothing. There's nothing you could do but just build or whatever. And it's just a shame. That's like, I don't know. It's
gonna turn to Hawaii.
Yeah, I mean, it could be anything.
It's gonna turn to Hawaii. It's just gonna be another state. You'll have some of the natives, and they'll be known as the natives. But that's, that, you know, and it's just gonna be a small.
The survivors
piece.
will be the survivors. Yeah.
Whoever wanted to, whoever was willing to stay after Maria. That's what they're gonna be known as, the natives.
Yeah. With the remnants of whatever.
And won't even know how to speak no damn Spanish. Ain't that something?
That's
just English with an accent.
Yeah, I think that the going back to your original question that I'm not sure if I had the chance to answer, but he was like, Manny asked, you know, where do you begin?
Yeah.
And then Goose added on with, you know, limited amount of funds, obviously, to begin with.
Yeah.
And all the only thing I could say that if I'm in that particular, I don't think there's only so much you can do, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The thing that you have to, I believe, organize the most and prepare the most is your mind. And I think if you can be positive enough to mentally make it through, and I'm not talking about physical stuff, and be, I guess, okay enough with the destruction that's going to happen anyway. And also being okay somewhat, this might sound super weird and like very eerie, okay with dying almost. That's where the mental preparedness, I mean, you have to like
just accept
literally,
it.
I mean, almost the worst, and it sounds bad saying that, but you have to be okay enough with that to if that's just the beginning of stages of being like a strong person and getting through this.
Sure.
Because the images and the reality that you're gonna face the next day with the aftermath is like, dude, you just seen what it could have been. Can you okay? So think about this. 2 weeks ago, right? A young couple just got married and bought their first home, and now it's a slab of cement.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like dreams demolished, right? Somebody just opened their first business 2 weeks ago. And now it's nothing.
Yeah.
Someone just invested in another house to flip because they wanted to be an entrepreneur, and that house they want to flip is nothing. The schools, a kid just was about to graduate from a university, and who knows if that university is still standing right now.
Right.
What diploma is he going to get? You know what I'm saying? It's like there's these harsh realities where you're just like, you're I don't know. Maybe there could have been there's pregnant women who couldn't make it to the hospital and are out there right now with no power, no nothing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that is what you're dealing with. That's the reality.
Yeah.
No clean water, no nothing, dude. Like,
the only positive thing of that is like obviously us being like the Hispanic community, Latins, like they're very lovable, passionate people.
Yes.
So like even around here, if there's a fire on the block, people like everyone kind of surrounds it. They reunite. They talk. We're like, and the house is being put out by firefighters, but the neighbors are like, we gotta help them. People start talking, and everyone gathers. So people get closer more than ever, like,
sure,
to kind of figure this out. So I can only imagine all these people. They probably don't even know each other from miles away or whatever. They're trying to figure something out. I don't know how much they can. How much they can do, how much they can make things work out, but I can tell like in that island, there's nothing but passionate people. Sure. So everyone's like lovable when it comes to like older people to the young generation. They're passionate about whether it's good or bad. They're passionate what they do or anything. We always talk about that. So like as like neighbors and stuff, I can see them coming together, reuniting, trying to brainstorm and trying to figure stuff out. Is it strong enough? I don't know. To help.
And with any kind of tragedy in general, is like it becomes a stronger sense of community and all that stuff.
Exactly.
And especially, and Hispanic communities are always like that. Like you're saying before, they're already like that to begin with. Let alone this is a catastrophe to begin with. So on top of it, so it just brings like a stronger bond. Some way, even we have no contact with them when we don't know exactly what's going on. But
so I was just saying like there's stories like being like thrown around about like people helping each other out, and I know my uncles enough to think that like these guys are definitely survivors. Like I almost like am so positive in their ability and who they are just as people.
Yeah.
That they're definitely part of the gang of helpers, I should say.
Yeah.
Fight or flight, they're fighting.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, because we have 2 uncles and an aunt that's living there. I don't know about how many, and that's just us. Like firsthand, we definitely have like generations that are there, but firsthand we have first uncle and an aunt that's living there. We don't.
Their sons.
Yeah, their kids. That's what I'm saying. We have a full-fledged. I don't know about the rest of you guys, but yeah, it's
plenty.
And it's crazy.
You talk about like where do you begin, right? I think the initial shock. And that initial shock for everybody that your world is upside down with no power, no water, that's going to be different for everybody. Some people are going to adapt. Now humans by nature are going to be, they're adaptable creatures, right? So when living how they're living becomes somewhat normal, because it's never going to be normal because of what you were used to or knew. Yeah. When that starts, then I think the rebuilding starts. But that initial shock, it could take a week, it could take a month, it could take months for people where like, no, I got to go. I can't do this. Once they get over that fact that this is kind of our new normal, that's when you can start to rebuild. That's when, that's when the passionate people, the innovators, the builders, the fighters, they come out and they say, okay, we've sulked enough. Yeah. We got to pick ourselves up here. Nobody's going to do it for us. And then, I'm pretty sure that's going to happen. Sure, it's just absolutely. When it's going to happen. And
that kind of goes along with what Jem was saying earlier, like the acceptance of it. Like
sure.
Once
absolutely.
you actually realize, like you said, once you realize, yes, this is my new normal.
Yeah.
Then it's time to move forward.
Right now, it's just so bad. You know what I mean?
When
your house is outside of your house. You know?
Exactly. Absolutely.
Your couch is sitting in your front yard.
When everything
like,
you've known is
turned upside down.
Dude,
everything in the the next quarter mile.
Sure.
And right now it's like I'm starting to feel stupid in a way because like you take things for granted. Like I was at the shop cutting hair and the power went out. I went bananas. I didn't know what to do. I was like, what the heck's going on? I'm running around, right? So then I go. So my like the shopping center I'm at, it's like a new build. I walk down to 3 stores over where they're doing construction, and the guy, he clicked off the wrong panel. So he shut down my shop instead of where he was working at. Dude, and I went into a complete panic for 20 minutes.
Sure.
Right.
And it was like someone's like little mistake.
Boo-boo. Yeah,
it was a mistake. And I went kind of bananas and kind of got frustrated because I got backed up in my day.
So,
but dude, with these people, their
for
power
6 months.
shut off for 6 months.
Yeah.
Just think about
Yes.
the 6 hours your power got shut off, and you're like, it's nighttime anyway. I'm just gonna go to bed.
Yeah.
Right, and you just slept through like 95% of that.
Right.
Sure.
Just think about like in general, anytime your power has gone out, just in the past, right? You know, like
Oh, my phone,
like,
cell
oh
phone
my
holds
gosh,
out.
I can't charge my phone. I can't do this. I can't use. And you start to realize you ever do this, like you're walking into rooms and you flick on the switch just naturally, and just like crap. I keep forgetting I don't have power right now. I remember getting all this stuff. It was like one winter our power went out. And thankfully my parents had a fireplace, and we were smart enough to grab gather a bunch enough dry wood and got a bunch of starter logs so that we were just, in the house with some level of heat. And I remember I remember having like the jug of milk just right outside the door and a thing of snow. Just like, well, this isn't gonna go bad. We had our meats, everything was still there. I mean, and this went on for like 2 days.
Like we said earlier, it just reunites everyone. Like mom would be in her room, pop in his little room, everyone, and all of a sudden you guys are all reunited in the living room, trying to brainstorm and figure this stuff out.
Yeah.
Like waiting for the power to come back on or whatever, trying to figure out what do we gotta do while the power's out. So that's how.
Oh, and it's funny because I remember doing everything we could do. I remember just sitting there like, well, we did everything we can possibly do.
Yeah.
So we went out back and started playing in the snow.
Well, there you
But
go.
there's nothing else to do, so we just had like a snow fight and then we made like an igloo and stuff. Yeah, I remember like
something positive in a way. Yeah.
I mean, for what you can, you know what I mean?
For the moment.
I worked from home, so that I couldn't work. I couldn't do and you got to think about all those people. It's like surviving's one thing, but if you are already just living paycheck to paycheck, there's nothing coming in now, dude.
Right.
Like it's whatever the nuts that you gathered and what you have already.
Yeah, and that's what we were saying. Like, there's a lot of farmlands. All the people that rely on farmlands for income, the crop and all that stuff, that's already gone for like a while. Even if things clear out, that's still gonna take some time to start all over.
The interesting thing is we as in this generation, we're so dependent on so many things.
Yeah.
It's almost, it might be a blessing in disguise, and don't take this. The destruction's horrible, the disaster's terrible, but people now can find a sense of purpose.
Sure.
They're not hiding behind Xbox, Facebook, Instagram, TV. They're just not caught up in all the distractions, right?
Yeah. That's not even an option anymore.
Right. A guy who never thought to pick up a hammer and a saw is now going to pick up a hammer and saw and be like, man, I could build a house. And never would have known it because he liked computers and was working at Home Depot.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? People are gonna find themselves in this whole, in this whole, unfortunate situation.
And that's what, like, in the lack of that type of stuff, that's where ingenuity comes in and all that stuff.
Sure.
And skills you never knew you had, all that stuff comes out. So
because you have nobody to depend on but yourself.
Exactly.
You never try. Now you have no choice but to just tie up the bootstraps and get to work.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it really is creating.
Yeah.
Doing what and then figuring out. There's gonna be a lot of figuring out. You don't have a choice. I mean, there's no choice. It's like you have to figure it out.
Yeah. There's no Google to look it up.
No, I mean, it's just even building some level of structure so you and your family at least can stay out of the elements. It's just that level of basic creativity,
exactly.
Going back to the early days,
right?
Literally,
or third world countries,
think about the guys who started. How did they figure it out? They just started to do it and trial and error.
That's what I mean. And I feel like it's like when you get to a point where there's no choice,
you just got to do it.
You have to do it. Like you're in a corner. You know what I mean? It's like I can't back up anymore.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
So I have to now start pushing forward.
It's going to start the way the island started. People are going to be like making little huts and stuff to cover themselves for shelter till structures are built.
I got faith it'll turn around. I hope so.
Now, for students, man, I know you have, kids in, CJ's in grade school, and Goose, you have Ava in grade school. Is this like talked about in school? Do they come home talking about it? Is there any like level of awareness? Are they raising any money? I know because not just with Maria, I know this has been happening now for the last month or two. Is there any, do they show anything? Because I remember I don't know exactly what it was, but when we were kids, something like this happened. I don't think it was in this country.
We did something. I think there was Andrew in '92.
Maybe that's
in Florida.
Maybe that's what it was.
In Florida, it was the big one at the time, which was only now is like a little storm compared to what we've seen here. But
it was like a relief fund. I know that we helped.
Can drive. Yeah. There were things, and it was with a purpose. It wasn't just a general like let's just help this organization out. No, these were going to go to said location. I don't know of anything yet. I know CJ's aware of everything because we kind of watched the news, and you can tell that they know. He watches, kind of takes it in for a little bit, and runs right upstairs. Yeah,
I think it's still too soon for them to even know how bad the disaster really is.
How devastating. They can't measure.
Right. I think it's still too soon. I mean, I think it's still too soon. I mean, everyone's doing like food drives and stuff like that, but I think a school is like still like they want to know everything about it, educate the kids about exactly what went on, whatever. So I think it's still like too soon. I mean, even though I haven't heard anything from Ava, but I just feel like in the next like few days or a week or so, they'll probably start doing stuff.
Yeah, and I think it starts with the people who can do something immediately.
Yeah.
For example, like the comedian Lawan, within 4 hours or something, he raised like $31,000.
He's a strong voice. Yeah.
Within the same time frame, Daddy Yankee raised like $70,000. Okay. I'm sure it's like way beyond that now, but I was watching it like hourly play by play, and it's just those voices, right, that get out there and make known of the real situation of what's really happening. Yeah. That's what's gonna help. But like just going back on just the general state of the world right now, right? I just captured 5 of these headlines, and just what are your initial thoughts after I say all 5? Official: Hurricane Maria set Puerto Rico back decades. Hurricane Maria, Puerto Rico officials describe apocalyptic conditions. Hurricane Irma mangled Florida's state national parks. Hurricane Harvey wreaks historic devastation by the numbers. Thousands homeless after Mexico quake. Death toll rises. I mean, like, someone poses the question: is this the end of the world? Is this just times? It was like in that article by Angela Fritz. She's questioning. She's like, is this climate control, or did we do this to ourselves, or is this
random?
Does this happen every once in a while?
There is something going on. Yeah. We're in September and we're having 90-degree weather here.
Yeah.
And which is not normal. I mean, we get hot weather in September and it's starting to cool off, but not 90.
93 today.
Yeah.
Wow. Let's mind you, 2 weeks in August was like 72 at one point, where it's almost flip flop.
It hit the 60s.
Yeah.
It was like 67 at one point.
I wore a hoodie in August 19th.
Yeah.
I wore a hoodie. So
there is something going on. However you want to take it, whatever it is, just Mother Nature, the world ending, or whatever. There is definitely something going on. We had 2 earthquakes in Mexico. Florida got hit with a storm. Puerto Rico, whatever. The lunar eclipse or whatever. Things that haven't been happening in decades are happening all in one shot. Yeah. So if you start to sit back and think about it, there's something going on.
Yeah.
Honestly, there's something that's like, what is? Yeah.
There's definitely a shift.
Yeah. What really is going on?
There's a polar shift.
There's something.
Yeah, I'm not, that's not my background, but there's definitely something.
Yeah.
Because it's obvious, right? and I don't know if we, are figuring it out or have it figured out already, but it's definitely interesting to see, with the next, few. Not even that too. On top of that, there's like war talk.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? Like, there's a lot of madness right now. It's like, can you even in sports right now? All the social
protests.
Protests and everything that's going on with that. There's just a lot going on, and all of it is highlighted. It's not like, because social protests have always been going on, but when they're powerful, like what's going on right now, and then you throw on hurricanes and earthquakes, and you're talking about nuclear war. Yeah, there's a lot of questioning in the back of your mind, like, dude, what is going on right now? Like, not saying that there ever be world peace, but there's definitely, everything has escalated to a whole other level.
And I feel like it's like everyone's like attention span is like shrinking, and like aggravation is like, just because everyone's frustrated on what's going on with the natural stuff. So you gotta, obviously, there's nothing you could do about it. Obviously, the president, there's nothing he could do about it. So they turn it into other things.
Yeah,
they push it upon something else, something that's already on the back of their mind.
It's funny because I think to some extent we're so progressive, and then on some things I feel like we're going backwards in.
Yeah.
It's funny that you said that, because you would think by now we would be more patient of people, and I think we are to a degree, but also technology, with it moving so fast, I feel like we also have this in the back of our mind that things should happen faster.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I don't know if that's patience or it's just like a way of life at this point. But then you kind of mix the two, and then now you're just in this weird thing, like, like you had an experience yesterday with being not able to make it to like the Eagles game, and we kept talking about, I was like, my patience really got tested today. And I remember him saying that, and I'm, in the back of my mind, I was just thinking, like, man, we all do get tested, and it's, how we handle it,
Sure.
is, determines the outcome. It's like, but then you go back and you think, this is where I get stuck at. It's like, how patient can you be? You know what I'm saying? Like, how far can you not take action or just like let things go, so to speak? I don't know.
Until you give in, yeah. And that was my thing yesterday. I was like, dude, I'm a pretty patient person, and a lot of things kept going off, kept going wrong, kept going. I'm like, dude, what else can go wrong? I kind of just got frustrated and gave in, and I just didn't even go to the game, and I came back home. We were in the stadium. We were at the stadium, and a bunch of things, multiple things went wrong, and it didn't fall in place. I'm like, dude, this isn't meant to be. I'm out of here. I said something to Lauren. She's like, yeah, you're right. Let's just go home. And we just drove home, all geared up, ready to rock and roll. And there was like a bunch of things that did not fall in place. And that's something, they're just small things. I can imagine.
I was going to say, put it in perspective.
Yeah.
Right.
You're worried about getting into a game. Some people don't even have a place to sleep.
Yeah.
That puts it into perspective so quickly. We had guys. Yeah. This is something so insignificant as well. We had guys. I play in a softball league. Medium pitch softball. It's like a bunch of out of shape guys, has-beens, right? They're two guys arguing about a guy dropping a ball because another guy didn't call the shortstop off. So he's screaming, use your grown man voice. And the other guy's like, I am screaming. I was like, guys, can you just shut up? Shut up. There are people right now that are underwater. You're worried about a pop-up in an
Puerto
instant.
Rican league too?
And it's just like, dude, guys,
they have Spanish towns on their jerseys.
Yeah, just shut up. Like, I just put it into perspective. Like, what does this matter? Who cares if we win or we lose? Who cares? But they went after it, and then you put it into perspective for me. Then 3 seconds later, they're like, yeah, you're right. I was like, oh, okay, yeah. Come on, let's think about it. Yeah, somebody's always got it worse.
Yeah, exactly. As bad as you think you have it.
So. You're right, but that doesn't. That also doesn't mean become complacent either. That's tough because somebody always has it worse. Well, that doesn't mean you should always strive for greatness, rather how hard it is or
absolutely.
Whatever the case is. That's kind of the gray area, though.
So, how does a community come together to help out during these catastrophic events?
Well, in the United States right now, as we see, is like the big figures, like the celebrities,
right?
Like J-Lo, you said athletes, Daddy Yankee, So that's where it kind of starts off. Like the big people that have obviously the funding, the bigger names, the bigger voices that when they talk, people listen. It starts off kind of with them, and then it goes from like the middle ground people, and it just triggers. They're the ones that trigger it off.
Yeah.
In their community, some of them are from New York, some of them from Florida, Philadelphia area. Because I know Danny Garcia is doing stuff. So it's like main people that are drawing their community where they live presently to help.
Sure.
And I think that's just where it starts.
It's a whole bunch of small battles that need to be won to win the war. I mean, that's the only way you're going to do it.
And I'm not saying rely on the celebrities. There are people that are out there that are doing probably just as much or even more than them. But it's like those are the voices that people listen to. They probably would never do anything, but like since.
And obviously
they have a bigger audience.
Yeah. And obviously finding local branches of like like the Red Cross and stuff like that, and trying to like donate to that directly and like whatever. And even like I think like Amazon set up something where like they have a wish list for like any kind of supplies that are going to like Mexico and Puerto Rico and stuff like that. Like you can just buy directly and it'll be they'll figure exactly when needs to go there and they'll send it over there and all that stuff.
Wow.
You know the tough part about the whole thing is like I forgot about Houston.
Yeah.
Sad, right? You forget.
It's
some places get pushed to the yeah. But what's always the new thing, right? That's what's the new thing? What have you done for me lately? And this is just happening to be the new thing. My concern about it is everybody's passionate for a week. God forbid another storm comes, hit South Carolina, and it's just like, well, you know, people forget about Puerto Rico. So it's really on. I think it needs to be a regional.
No, and you're right because it is being faint on the news. It's fading out.
It's been faded.
Yeah,
like Puerto Rico was like already last week. It's been faded out, and people were saying that they got hit the hardest, and they didn't get nearly as much attention as Houston did and Florida did. Yeah, they already got shortchanged, and now something else is they're just going to throw it up against the coastline, and it's just gets like lost by the wayside.
And that's where like the people who are actually in those communities, like the people who are like Daddy Inc. and stuff like keep those at least the local stuff going.
Keep it alive.
Needs to be a regional thing, man. You gotta kind of fight for people in Houston. Fight for people in Houston.
Yeah.
You know, the local states, fight for each other, and
that's the only way I think it's also us. It's kind of different because it hit closer to home for us.
And that's what I'm saying.
So our mind shifted, but there's people I'm sure that's out there that they're just focusing on Houston, focusing on Mexico, just focusing on Florida.
Our mind share is Puerto Rico,
right?
Yeah, and that's what I was saying. I was like, it wasn't if Texas fade away. It was like we had nothing really there to.
Our connection
like,
isn't there.
Yeah, sentimental. It's Puerto Rico. Boom. That hit.
Absolutely.
That's
so
even Florida hit it for. That's what started like, when you see like donations to Houston and you contribute, and then all of a sudden, boom, it's like Florida. Like, well, no, we have family members that are evacuating. So then you start like now your focus is there, and they're also contributing there, and then boom, Puerto Rico gets hit. You have aunts and uncles that are literally stuck.
Right.
Yeah.
And then you start your focus just kept getting wider and wider and like crazier. It's like. We helped every single one.
Yeah,
I know me personally, but the harder it gets hit to your closer to home, you just get like you kind of get pulled towards that direction. It's not that you don't want to; it's just that your energies need to be focused.
And there's no reason why you shouldn't be able to help. Because dude, I went to Wawa and as you're paying, it says, "Do you want to donate whatever to Texas?" And you say yes or no. $1, it's whatever donation you want to do.
Right.
And it's computerized.
Right.
Like, and that's and I go to Wawa every morning, and it comes up every day. The same thing. Like, and now it's Puerto Rico. Now they switch it over. So like, you can be able. There's some people are like, how do I donate? How do I help? Dude, it's all over.
It's not hard.
In our area, it's all over the place.
Yeah, it's not hard.
Yeah, I mean, I know everything just got squared away, and we just set this up, but. We as a family, we as Rotated Views podcast, Miguel's Riverside Barbershop, linked up with a local church, 2 local churches that linked up with the NPR Chamber of Commerce, and they're sending number one relief funds, but more importantly, I think is the supplies.
Sure.
Yes.
All kinds of stuff from batteries. Powdered and boxed milk, baby formula, diapers, canned goods, cereals, soup, non-perishables, paper goods, toothpaste, toothbrushes, the toiletries, all that stuff, which is literally the basics.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we teamed up with them, And there's even, for monetary donations, how Goose is talking about www.nprchamber.org/disaster-relief. And that's the National Puerto Rican Chamber of Commerce. And again, how Goose is talking about, that's where it starts. It starts. If we're not doing it, who's going to do it? You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Everyone just plays a little tiny role. To piggyback on what Manny was saying, that all adds up.
Yeah.
It's like you do a little bit of something, you do a little something, you do a little something. It might not be much, but can you imagine what a fresh pair of diapers is on the little like a little baby?
Absolutely. Sure.
You know what I'm saying? That doesn't cost much, but it's the basics. That's how wiped out these people are.
Even if you give $1, donate $1. There's throughout the day, like I know Wawa is very, very in and out. 200-300 people donate $1 throughout the day. That's $200-300 that's helping out. Like, don't think just because you're doing $1 is not enough. Dude, you add everyone up and everyone as a community gets together and they all donate a little bit of something, what they can. Dude, it all adds up.
Even they're taking bottled waters now. You think now, grocery store, bottled water got so cheap, it was like $2.50 for 24 bottles of water.
Yeah.
That's $2.50. And imagine, like, even when your own household runs out of water. Sure. You imagine when, you go grocery shopping, like, dang, we finally got water. You're out of water for like one night.
A gallon of water is less than $1.
Right. Yeah, I think it's like 50 cents or something like that. So there's definitely ways. We just gotta come together. As they say, Puerto Rico rises. They're hashtagging this all over the place, and it starts and ends with us. And and it's one of those things where it's the memory of it. Remember the initial feelings, or remember those photos.
Sure.
And that's their reality. They got to live every day.
Right.
Yeah.
It's up to us to not forget. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. We have to keep it alive until something is done, and people are in better positions. So it's interesting because we always end the podcast with 2 quotes, and we will also end this episode with 2 quotes. But these 2 quotes, when I read them, it just kind of puts things into perspectives, and it kind of goes towards what that last question was: how does one help out during these catastrophic events? The first one is by Daryn Kagan. Bad things do happen in the world, like war, natural disasters, disease. But out of those situations, always arise stories of ordinary people doing extraordinary things. And Nathaniel Philbrick. In all natural disasters through time, man needs to attach meaning to tragedy, no matter how random and inexplicable the event is.
True.
So there you have it, folks. What a disaster. In this episode, the crew talks about the recent disastrous events that have taken place throughout the world. We cover topics that range from multiple hurricanes, earthquakes, and other natural disasters, and how the world is handling the aftermath. We wrap the episodes up with quotes from Nathaniel Philbrick and Daryn Kagan. Awesome. Guys, thanks again for joining us. The Rotated Views podcast was produced for self-development purposes. Huge shout out to our sponsors. This episode is brought to you by the Blessed Lifestyle brand. That is BL3SSED.com. Also sponsored by The Motivation Files Unleashed. This motivational mixtape will be your fuel for success. Available on all platforms. Guys, don't forget to visit the website, JimmyLeeVelez.com. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Rotated Views. If you have any inquiries or questions, email us at info@JimmyLeeVelez.com. On behalf of myself and the rest of the crew, we wish you massive success. Stay blessed.